I apologize for the glare, but I'm in my room right now and it's afternoon about 3:15 and my daughter is on the other end and she's conducting business, so I thought it best to come in my room and close the door. So you can see my back wall, my walk-in closet's there, and it never had a door. So I put up pressure rod and curtains I actually brought with me from Maine. They were white sailcloth from Walmart, and I had white in my kitchen. It was an all-white kitchen with marbled floor and counter, and it was a beautiful, beautiful kitchen I designed myself. So someday I'll try to dig up, I know there's photos on some of my computers. I have two unfunctional and one's still working, but I probably should make sure I've downloaded everything. I think I did, but I'm just not sure which computer I did it on. So I've lost a lot of photographs that were on my computers when they died and broke down. So what was I talking about? Cam T is concerned about Social Security, disability. There's two types. SSDI, which is the kind of disability you get when you, one, prove your disability, and two, I think it's have 40 credits in. You have to have credits for working X amount of years. I made a fatal mistake. The beauty about SSDI, first of all, is that you can own things. You can have more than one car. You can have money in the bank, and you still get the amount that you earned over the years. I worked with my husband, and unless I was working for someone like a store or restaurant, I had no or not very many credits or years in. When I married Dennis, I was his assistant, and we never put down that I earned any of that money. Now, if you're in your 50s or 60s, they go by the last 10 years, and that's how they figure your amount. It's good that way because usually don't we earn more as we're getting older unless we start to get sick or our business changes, which are two things that happened to my husband, Dennis. One, he was earning less. Two, he was getting sick. And that was dropping his amount that he would be getting. Therefore, when we started, he only had $924, and when he ended his life, it was $964 from the COLAs over the 2 years, barely, that he got his SSDI. Now, he should have gotten it early on, and the doctors were saying, is this man on disability? And I'd say, well, no, we don't have a diagnosis. And they knew this to be true. You have to have something they're stating is wrong with you. So we didn't even bother applying. Maybe we should have when after a year, 2016 to 2017, we realized he wasn't getting better. But it wasn't until 2019 that we applied. So we lost 3 years of income. But there were several factors involved. One, I was still selling things for him, and I was still claiming them as his returns. So he had income showing 2016, 2017, 2018. And they would not go back any further than December of 2019 is when they approved him. So we got no back pay for him. Big mistake. If your beloved husband or wife is ill and it's been 6 months, I highly recommend that you apply for SSDI. They'll ask you to apply for both, but I'm going to tell you something. Do not go with SSI. That is a welfare program. You don't want that. If you or your spouse has the 10 years in of working and you've got your 40 credits, refuse SSI. They want to know what color socks you have. They want to know what's in the bank, what you own for cars, what you have for house. They want to know everything. It's a welfare system. Don't do it if you don't have to. Now, Dennis got sick in 2012, and he hadn't worked for 8 months. I panicked, and I applied for my own disability because I had the backup medically. That's another biggie. Get as much medical backup as you can. See the doctors who'll say it's clear. And they might have said this man has no energy back in 2016. Maybe we should have done it instead of going through all of our savings like we did instead. But hindsight is better than foresight. And so I'm saying to you, don't make the mistake I made. If somebody's been ill for 6 months in a row and they can't figure it out, or they have figured it out and it doesn't look like they're going to get any better and they're just too sick or weak to work, time to apply. And it's very easy. SSA.gov. And you'll make yourself a little account with a username and password and write everything down. Have a book. I had a book, Dennis's health book. And everything that I had to make for passwords, usernames, passwords, I had everything in that book. So I knew to go to that book, open it up. I had the SSA stuff. I had the Medicaid stuff. I had everything written down. Everything that he needed. Access was separate for food stamps, etc. And I chose to come to Florida because in Maine, when he was sick, and I hadn't applied for anything yet, I called my area agency on aging, and I'm going to tell you, you want to Google for your town or county and your state, area, AREA, agency, AGENCY, on aging, AGING, area, agency on aging. They can help you with so many things. But in Maine, we didn't have anything. There was no one. I couldn't get caregiver help. I couldn't get caregiver hours for myself. I couldn't get anything. So I started searching online. What states will pay spouses to be caregivers? And then I got a list of states. And you couldn't get the information you really wanted because they don't want to give it to you. So I did as much research as I could, and Florida looked right. And my sons were in Florida, and I knew Florida because we had been snowbirds since the 90s, coming back and forth and working here and then going back up north and working there. And there are other states as well, like Kentucky, I think, is a state. And there are about 20 some odd states that will pay a spouse as a caregiver. Most will not. I think it's grossly unfair that that is like that because you have to stop working. You can't get away. Maybe your spouse doesn't want a stranger to come in and work for you. Sometimes you can get like a family member in these states that don't allow a spousal caregiver. I think it's just horrible. But I came to Florida, And it was at a time where I was able to find this was the only trailer in the cheapest park. Now there was another one I loved. It was too much money. It would have broke us. The rent was very high to start with, and I'm really glad I didn't go that route, because I would have been ruined financially once he died. And we didn't have an income then, and well, it's sketchy. On paper I could show income, but we were vastly approaching the point in time when we would not be able to show much for income. And you have to have, after your debts, they figure your rent at 30 or 40% of your income ratio. They're looking at debt to income ratio, and it has to be like 40% after they figure your debts off. So they're taking that out of your gross. And that's how it is for renting down here. We all tried to rent a house together because Maggie and Mike were in Texas, and we asked them to come back to Florida, and they were having a hard time in Texas. And so they came back, and we tried desperately to find a house, but the prejudice against a family living together was phenomenal. I couldn't believe it. And then houses went so fast. The competition was horrible in 2017, 2018. Now, to get back on subject, so SSI is when you're broke, basically. You don't have much, and you have no other income, or your spouse is below 16, 17,000 a year. And because Dennis's dropped so rapidly, we were at 16,000 a year at that point. But we had everything paid off except for the car. So we were making it, and I could make a little money on the side, the selling right out of my house while he was sick. So I applied for SSI, and I got it immediately. 6 months later, not even. I had the medical backup to prove my disability. And then we were in the new house in Dover Foxcroft at that point, and Dennis just had never quite recovered from that blood clot, and then a car accident, and he was doing very poorly. So yeah, the SSI really helped us. Now, at that time, I had gold and silver set aside from our business, and that is not a financial instrument, so it didn't count. But we slowly, we'd keep his income at 16,000 by selling those items little by little. And I don't know if I was completely above board with that. They said you could have personal goods, and since it was no longer business, I considered it personal goods. And so I just did it that way until we went broke. And then his SSDI came in. I had ended my SSI in 2018 anyway, when I knew that I was going to sell the house in Dover Foxcroft, and I was going to have money available. And they kept making mistakes up there in Maine. Every time I would report a financial change, it wouldn't go through. I'd call a month later, we don't have that information. I'd tell them again. I'd call 2 months later, we don't have that information. So they weren't reporting the things I was telling them anyway. So that was becoming an issue, and it was making me nervous. I'm like, what if they come back on me eventually for fraud? So I ended it, and it was a relief. And that's when we sold the house, and when I sold the majority of our goods at that time. Now, I still have a lot of paper, but I don't know the value of it. I'm still going through it. I haven't found anything amazing or kick butt. I've always hoped there might have been something in that lot that would set me free financially, but there isn't. So yes, if you can get SSDI, that's the best way to do it. And there was no amount for me. If you have children or a disabled child, then you can get more money from Social Security. They not only have to pay your spouse, they have to pay for they give a certain amount for your disabled child, and I think they'll give an amount for the mother. When there's a bug and he's making me crazy, I'm gonna get you. So, yeah, don't be afraid to call your local Social Security agency. And I know how they are. You'll get 6 different answers from 6 different people. Your best bet is to get, what do they call it? In each region, there is a main Social Security agency. They're the ones with all the answers. So if, for instance, I have a local Social Security office, but our big agency, I think, is in Kentucky, and I do have their address, find out who your main regional agency is and then write them a letter. Ask them what you want to know. They have to write back, and then you have it in writing. If you say to them, I have a spouse who's very ill, we have owned this and that, he worked so many years. Look, don't wait, especially if they worked for someone else. Do not wait very long before you apply, because you're losing money. 6 months in, you know they're not going to get better. Start the process. Even if you have to appeal or get a lawyer, start the process on your own first. You can do that right online, ssa.gov. And I'm sorry if I'm a little scattered. I'm bouncing around because I'm relaying my experience as well as what I know in general. Your best bet where to start is to apply online. Someone will call you from your local agency. You'll eventually get a letter from the regional agency, and that's the address you want to keep. If you're not getting the answers you need from the regular Joes behind the desk, you write to that main regional agency and you get the right answer. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, and I hope that helps you, Cam T. There's a lot of information out there. As a matter of fact, you can bring up PDFs of Social Security rules. I just would Google things like if spouse dies, can wife get Social Security? And then the whole thing comes up, and you just choose. But always remember .gov, G-O-V, stands for government. You do not want any other website address. Go with a .gov, anything .gov, okay? There you go. I hope this helped. Bye.